All right. So I'm going to put on my journalist hat. A lot of times, y'all know I love my history, but today we are going into journalist hat area. And I actually heard this from a story from Tre'vell Anderson, who also has a podcast here on the network. Fanti, they also are now on the daily podcast, What a Day podcast, which I listen to get a lot of my 20-minute news in some chunks. One of their old co-hosts left. Tre'vell Anderson, Snaps, is one of their new co-hosts. So really awesome to hear their voice. But they brought this story to light about Ed Buck. Did you hear about Ed Buck? Do you know what happened to Ed Buck? Oh, you did hear.
Yes,
Okay, so the
but I
story
mean, it's
won't
in my
surprise
line
you.
of, yeah, but hey,
Okay.
I don't know
I
the
feel
details.
like it was off of a lot
All
of
the
people's
details.
radars. I remember hearing a little bit of sprinklings here and there. And so for some folks, this will be just sort of news. And it's not surprising to me when I put all the pieces together why this story was not more mainstreamly covered, and that there are many Ed Bucks out there in the world. So
Oh yeah.
Ed Buck, 66. What happened was he is a small time white male Democratic donor and political activist who had a fetish for black queer men. He would lure them to his home and essentially inject them with methamphetamines, and they would die. And he was finally convicted last Tuesday by a federal judge on account of 9 felonies, including fatal doses of injecting meth to 2 men, one of which who died was Jamel Moore, who was 26, and then another one, Timothy Dean, who was 55, and they died in his West Hollywood apartment, 18 months apart. So the backstory about Ed Buck. So white gay man, very well known in LA, in the area. He was really much known for his vocal activism work in various causes. And I guess back in the 80s, he gained like a lot of attention because he successfully spearheaded this effort to impeach the Arizona's then governor, Evan Meacham. And eventually he was like, okay, done with that. I'm out of here, and made his way to West Hollywood. And he ran for city council back in 2007, unsuccessful. But he still just maintained this presence of relevancy, and he was there in these political circles. So he's built this world around him, which just as the story goes on, it's just so terrifying of like what happens if you are rich and you are white and you are male, the things that you can do. And I will say, like, if you, in some states, you being gay is not, it doesn't, in California and in LA, that doesn't matter. That could even just get you into other different circles, elite
That's right.
circles, and things like that. So,
Mm-hmm.
and according to the LA Times from 2009 to 2019, he had donated $525,000 to local and state and federal campaigns focusing on LGBTQ rights and animal rights. So this picture, again, you never know. You never know who is not real. That person that you see that seem that, oh, they seem like they down with the cause. Oh, okay.
It's a lie.
Charles. Oh, Charles seems like he good.
Look
Better
under the rug.
check those receipts. Look under the rug. Oh my God, it's a body of a. It's a body.
Oh my God.
Terrible.
The
Terrible.
delivery was funny, but the material.
I'm
I'm
sorry.
sorry.
I know. I
No,
realized.
no, no. It's I laughed.
That is
Yeah.
great. Y'all know my way of dealing with pain and trauma is humor, and
That's right. That's right.
it's not great. Somebody died. I'm sorry. Okay, but the story of how like this really came to light about his just grotesque, I won't even say shenanigans, it's just grotesque behavior. In
Mm-hmm.
2017, the body of Jamel Moore, who 26, was found in Buck's apartment along with nearly 2 grams of meth, syringes, and other just drug paraphernalia. And then the death was initially ruled an accident by the coroner. And then Moore's family was like, what? That doesn't make sense. It just didn't make sense. Like, again, just adding up all the things, it was like, this older white man and this young black man. What's this accidental death? Like, how does this, this doesn't make any sense. And it wasn't until the family started raising concerns, and then activists started to get, involved of like, how could he have administered those drugs himself? It just didn't make sense. And then the allegations were confirmed in a journal found in Jamel's belongings, where he wrote, I quote, "I've become addicted to drugs, and the worst one at that. Ed Buck is the one to thank. He gave me my first injection of crystal meth."
Oh my God.
So in the journal. And then 2 years later, another black gay man was found in Buck's apartment. So I mean, this guy, first one happened, whoopsie doopsie, and the cops just like, oh, accidental death, look the other way. And then Timothy Dean, who's 55, was found in the apartment. Also died of a drug overdose. And still, people are like, oh, I guess, shit happens. Black gay men just be dying.
Yeah.
And Buck was known for soliciting men, mostly black, and targeted those who engaged in, survival sex work or unhoused. So he was like this predator targeting specific communities and groups of people that, whether it was tied to his fetish, he just knew that if something happened, just how expendable
Yep.
black gay men are. And if you add sex worker or, issues with drugs, expendable. Just literally playthings, toys,
Yep.
And so what were we gonna say?
No, I was just gonna say that's why some of the conversations that we're having these days about, making sure that we're having that conversation at the forefront is so important, because people don't realize the extent of the vitriol that's being kind of like doled out like willy-nilly, how that leads directly to this outcome.
Right, absolutely, 100%. Because, like you said, like that, like we set the landscape, right? So clearly, these cops, because of the things that people say about any of those asterisks or any of these intersections of those people, black, gay, drug user, sex worker, unhoused, any of those, one or more of those, right? We already have it in the lexicon that these people are worthless or valueless, right? And so the cops will put two and two together. I've had interactions with cops of how quickly they just try to piece a story together that fits their narrative or their story. They're looking for the quickest things, and it's oftentimes on stereotypes and the stories that society has continuously told itself. And by society, I mean white, straight men who have created this entire structure. Again, you and I didn't even bat an eyelash. We've been watching women play volleyball in bikinis our entire lives, didn't even think about it until these women were like, why am I wearing these bikinis? And oh, you're right. Why are you wearing those bikinis? That's none of the news, but you need to do your job. You're right. But look, it's like, that's the things, racism and the patriarchy, or white supremacy and the patriarchy, it's like this fog. We don't even realize that we're fucking in it, or it's like being frogs or crabs or whatever you want to boil in a boiling pot of water that just keeps increasing, and you don't even realize that you're in it. And you
don't. The temperature just like slowly just kills you.
But you know what? It's getting too hot. We're like, ooh, it's getting too hot.
It is getting too hot.
But sadly for some, it actually does kill them. And then in this case, because of all these intersections of the system of, homophobia and racism, allowed this guy to get away with this thing. And so the verdict came exactly 4 years after one of the victims was found dead. So it was like the 4-year anniversary. So it's kind of, fitting. And then, so like I had mentioned earlier, in 2019, activists were rallying outside of his apartment, demanding, I remember reading this article about this. And like this man still was not being arrested. People had to go out into the streets, again, like trying to get actual justice happen, until they went onto the streets and protested outside of his house after Jamel Moore had overdosed in 2000. They had been starting since Jamel Moore was found dead. And so in the Justice Department, they had said, and they had to get a federal case. They had to go even higher. So it wasn't even like local police finally caved in and did anything. They had to keep going up higher to get more attention to it. And they stated that Buck exerted, in the department's statement, in the Justice Department statement, they said that Buck exerted power and control over his victims, typically targeting individuals who were destitute, homeless, or struggling with drug addictions. That was part of their statement. And this won't surprise you, but guess. Okay, let's play a game. Can you guess? So one of his defense lawyers was also a prosecutor on blank person's case.
Castor.
Actually, I don't know if we want to play this game, because I still don't know how I feel about this case as a black person. So there were a prosecutor on the O.J. Simpson case, which is always so like, it's just so weird.
I thought you were gonna say Cosby's case. Oh shit. Okay.
Which also the Cosby one I'm more of an adult. I have much more feelings about that. Like a predator go to jail, you like, you know,
Right.
absolutely. The Simpson one, I just have to like, I don't know. I can't, no comment.
That one
It's
is
just
tough.
terrible. It's
I,
really bad. It's bad.
it's
I've seen
really,
the
yeah.
documentary. I've seen it all. I just can't. It's just a very difficult thing to talk about. It
I
just
mean, I
really is.
remember that I moved to this country when that was happening, and I was just like, as a black person, you're rooting for OJ, and that was
It's
it. Like, it was
it's
just
just
like that was it.
right. But
Yeah.
it's like, again, it came after the heels of Rodney King, and it wasn't. It was more so of what he had represented, and we have seen so many times the justice
Mhm.
system, and we still to this day put away innocent black people all the fucking time. And so it had seemed like the same sort of situation was happening. But on the
Yep.
other side, you saw, you know, this black man being getting, you know, treatment as if he were a white guy, you know, but that's
Prized
that
athlete.
fame, prize athlete, you know,
Yeah.
but he also was someone who ran in those white circles, and similar to, Ed Buck had all these different, you know, sort of connections. So not surprising that the defense lawyer, there's some, you know, which doesn't speak well for either of these folks, but uh even after Timothy Dean, 55, he died 18 months later. It took, like I said, an additional 9 months and a near death of another overdose victim for Buck's arrest. So he didn't get arrested. So remember, Dina died, and then 18 months later, um oh no, Dina died 18 months after Jamel Moore, and then it was 9 months later there was a near death of another overdose victim for Buck, who was arrested. Mind you, there's probably so many other folks, right? This list, like a Harvey Weinstein style fucking list of just folks that this guy, that there's
Yeah.
names that we don't even know, or
Absolutely.
who didn't come forward, right? Or who
Mhm.
died and we don't even know how they died or why they died. And so family members and activists finally pushed for Buck's arrest after Moore had died. And so then again, you had all these activists who were coming out, who've been advocating for years for Buck to be brought to justice. And I, like I had mentioned, he attacked, you know, these very vulnerable communities because he knew that he could get away with it. As we've
Yeah.
said, if you're black, you're queer, you're a sex worker, had possible drug use, society just did not give two fucks about you. Some of these men, they were homeless. Some of them were sex workers. One of them lived in a tent underneath the 105 freeway overpass, and Buck invited him back to his apartment.
Oh my
And he,
God.
right? This is
It's like a predator. He's just like prowling, looking for
100%,
people.
100% predator. He's such a predator, and that's why it's very uncomfortable when some of these predators get free. Like, I have issues with Bill Cosby being set free. I mean,
That's really the thing.
it's
That's
only
really the thing.
what do y'all expect is gonna happen?
Like
Like, the
literally,
man,
what you? Yeah.
it's almost, I would even classify this as a mental health issue. Like, there's something that he needs deep psychology and counseling away from the rest of society to do whatever processing and healing, not and healing, that he needs to do. Because, as you know, Oprah says, what happened to you? Clearly something happened to Bill Cosby. I don't know what happened. I'm not a doctor, but he needs to go and deal and process with that away. I've not seen any examples of remorse or healing, just victimhood, which, you know, and Felicia
Yeah.
Rashad
Oh
tweeting out
God.
like, "Ooh, finally!" What she, well, Felicia, Mama Huxtable. Did you see after he was released, she like tweeted something and then she took it back or something? Like, she had
Yeah, and then well,
tweeted,
because everybody was like, did you just become
she
the
had
dean at
tweeted like,
Howard? You
"Thank
can't say shit
God."
like that." Yeah. She's like, oh,
I
thank
thought that
God that
was great.
justice was finally served or
Oh
something like that.
yes,
Some shit like that.
yes,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah. And I was like,
Ooh,
okay.
girl. So she's still paying for that one. It's hard. It's hard. Sometimes you just
Yeah.
don't tweet. Sometimes I don't need to know all of your thoughts.
Like,
But
stop. Just
yes,
stop. Yeah.
and so they also testified that Buck had enjoyed seeing them get so high they lost control, and that
Mm-hmm.
they would,
Sounds like
get
Cosby.
and then he had these videos. There was these videos of him, like, just assaulting them while they were unconscious. And Dane Brown, so this was the man who had survived the near fatal overdose. He had escaped, Buck's drug den of abuse and exploitation and racism. All of those complied, told reporters outside the courthouse, I didn't think I was going to be believed.
I
He did
mean,
not think.
and would you blame him based on
Right.
everything that we've seen?
Rich,
he
white,
wouldn't have been believed.
Yes,
he wouldn't have.
Absolutely.
He wouldn't have. Yeah.
Yep. Again, this man had been getting away with this for the longest time, right? Like completely. So very similar. And this is like the story. You see this all the time in these predators' behavior, and they keep doing this. And the more marginalized you are, the least likely you feel like you're going to be believed or supported. And I would also say the more that this probably stuff is happening. I think this story is. I was only really seeing it now that the verdict happened. I started seeing it a little bit more, but when I remember reading articles about the protests happening, I wasn't seeing that on any other news sources or blogs or And it just kind of reminds me of, there's so many other stories to be told, and we have this 24-hour news cycle that is so utterly fucking useless. Y'all talking
it's the same
about
shit
the
over
same
and over again.
stories, and it's not even real journalism at this point.
No,
it's just getting, now let's get this person's opinion about this tweet that was sent out, or now let's get this person's opinion. Now let's get these two people to argue about it. Like, it doesn't, and what becomes is it becomes addicting, and you get further and further down this like rabbit hole, just listening to these other people. There's no news about it. What's the news? What's the story? So this story went unnoticed for so long because everyone was paying attention to all this other, same old repetition nonsense that was going on for so long. But again, of what these folks were representing and then connecting into. And then people in the Democratic Party still, they continue to take this guy's money. They didn't return his money. The media was so afraid to be sued by him that they wouldn't take any action or even just start even reporting on this story. And they would also say, so there just were hundreds. There's finally all this like video evidence and, just all the different, drugs that he would have them do. There were all this, testimony that was happening. And then just to point out that the LA coroner's office originally ruled Moore's death as an accident. And deputies didn't see anything suspicious about this young black man found in a rich white man's home. And it wasn't until Moore's family publicly questioned whether the drugs were self-administered and protests were organized. So, it's one of those things that it's unfortunate. We got to take, I don't want to sound like the other people. I don't want to sound like I'm asking people to storm the Capitol, but sometimes you got to take justice into your own hands. I mean, for us, they don't need to do anything. Y'all have justice. Guess what? Justice is already in your hands. She's at your charcuterie plate. She's hanging out with you. Like, she's your mama's friend, your mother's friend. Sorry. Y'all are friends. Y'all
yeah, there's no, I mean, I don't know. Yeah, that's like a whole nother topic that I'm still wrapping my mind around. But
it is, which is also sidebar. Remember that was this year. The insurrection was this year. Isn't that wild?
Oh my God. It does feel like it was like 3 years ago.
The insurrection happened in January of 2021.
Holy shit.
So that's a whole other thing. But I want to leave with this, is that Jasmine Kanick, who's a political strategist who helped organize the protests in the Buck case, she said that she was grateful that the federal authorities took the black victims seriously. And she said that local prosecutors did not. And then she said this: our lives matter. Our community matters. And just because someone is unhoused, an addict, maybe a survival sex worker or an escort or HIV positive, does not mean that their lives don't matter. And we should look the other way when they show up dead in a white Democratic donor's home. He is just one of many Ed Bucks. There are many out there.
There's so many.
What I want to commend is the people who were so relentless in making sure that this case got the support that it needed. We'll link this in the show notes, but you can still go there. It's called Justice for Jamel, and that's justice, then the number 4, and then GEMMEL.org. And they have, the website was like bomb. You could donate, you could buy t-shirts. You can still buy a t-shirt that says fuck Ed Buck, and wear that around, but there's I'm sure other causes and other folks and other people who are not getting the attention. In the other cases, they're not getting the attention. Our focus is on the wrong people, you know, with this whole entire war on drugs and all this sort of stuff, where those folks just need, those primarily Black and brown folks who just need, you know, mental help and healing, or drug abuse treatment, not being
or
locked
any
away,
support, like
any support, a
Like,
job, yeah, anything, like someone needs to
anything.
say, you
Like,
can do it, you're looking good, I believe
yeah,
in you.
like, yeah.
Meanwhile, you have all these other predators out there who are out there doing this sort of shit and preying on these on our folks. So
And are supported.
and are supported, and
Hmm.
people look the other way.
Hmm.
So I just wanted to give this story its light and its life, and really recognize the lives that were lost in this as well, and just, you know, keep your eyes open, because there's probably someone in your community or in your neighborhood that needs your support as well. So what other stories are we missing from those communities who are constantly
That's right.
pushed to the sidelines? Fuck you, Ed Buck.